So welcome to the Smart Career Musings, which is a gentle flurry of interesting thoughts. And today is a bit of a part two, a bit of a continuation of what we did last week. A very interesting continuation, I would say. So last week we really talked about, or mused about, if you will, on a slow drift of our professional identity with all the changes that's probably happening. Of course, some of the changes that seem to be much more prominent, that we seem to be affected by or perceivedly affected by or sensitive to is the technology aspect, the AI and stuff. So in this is a very special musing because this is more representative of the voices from the community where three very senior practitioners muse on what they perceive about the drift of the professional identity. And their reflections really surface some of the subtle moments where the experience deepens, yet recognition thins, and so on. Where mastery glows, but the language to describe it is kind of lagging behind. There are probably many of such things. It's really a quiet questioning of where one's professional center now sits. So welcome, Sandeep from Bridgetree, Catherine from Accenture, and Ravisuriya from Test Garage, who I think will share their deeper thoughts and what they think is potentially an interesting shift and loss of the identity. So I am going to probably savor this entire musings because I'm going to listen to the three wonderful people here, and I'm sure all of us others will enjoy it too. So before we get along, I just wanted to kind of do a very, very quick recap. I'm not going to go and talk across the entire stuff, but all we talked about last week was the identity of who we are, the professional identity is not something that rapidly changes in an instant. It shifts very gently. It is shaped by tools that evolve, maybe different forms of contribution that become quieter. What do we mean by quieter? We're thinking more, we're preventing issues, and the contribution is not very, very visible sometimes. Kind of harping upon certain capabilities that expand beyond the typical familiar labels that we are. And sometimes we feel that the value, the clearer definition of value is kind of subtle, soft. Sometimes that unnerves us, right? How do you tell that you didn't find an issue, but you prevented it? And so on and so forth, right? So things like the bug counts, the test suites, etc. Some of those things which are very visible have given away to questions that about preventing waste and so on, right? So in a way, it's no more about the activities, but the insight. It's the judgment replacing certain artifacts and questionings that carry more weight than some of the answers that we have today. And we talked about a variety of different aspects. We talked about how the way we use certain language, it does not describe our full work. How sometimes the notion of valuable is not as visible, right? And we discussed, maybe mused about a variety of things. The notion of my designations, my credentials don't really reflect the true reality of what I am. The fact that I'm mentoring somebody seems like I am leaving behind a few things. And then, should I need a permission to say who I am? The dilemma of who authorizes me becoming somebody, and so on and so forth, right? And the notion of mourning of an artifact, meaning there were things that were visible, but now it's not about number of pages of test case and number of scripts, something more deeper, and so on and so forth. So we kind of talked about, mused about last time about 9 of them, and I'm sure that the three wonderful people will probably add something to it or give their shared experiences in what it means. So without much ado, I'm going to now request Sandeep to share his thoughts, which we'll do it in 2 parts. We'll do one round of a few minutes of each for each, and then I'm sure they have more than one thought. So we'll do it in 2 parts, so to speak. This is kind of part 1. So Sandeep, this is your stuff that you wanted to talk about. So it's your stuff. So maybe you want to muse.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and so excited, happy, and nervous as well. Sharing stage with Catherine, Ravisuriya, Avni, and you, Ashok sir.
Nice to see Catherine after all.
Hey, Catherine. Interestingly, a few minutes back from this call, I was reading that book from D. Subbarao, who had been our RBI governor in the past. And the book name is just a mercenary, notes from his life and career, right? So, and I was trying to relate my mentorship experience with that book in some aspects. So, what I see about mentorship, and before that, I admit that my mentorship experience has been very limited, and that too largely in very organizational contexts so far. So, with respect to like independent consultants kind of mentorship, no, I'm not suitable for that at this moment. But let me share my experience. And while thinking about expressing my experiences, I thought that probably it's not only about teaching few technical skills, especially in the context of software testing and quality leadership. Uh, it goes deeper, I guess. It goes to building a character, a persona, and transmitting a passion in the people you are mentoring. And that's because when you mentor people, you come across people who are sometimes uh, more competent than you, more aware, smarter than you. And you have a feeling, and you know from the facts as well, that no, you're not teaching them these techniques. They know it better than you, or they can do it better than you in coming days, in coming weeks. So you sense a drift within you. That's why I says what causes the drift for you, within you, and for what good, right? So sometimes that drift comes from the management. Okay, go to this team, mentor, and teach them something what you know, like test design techniques or how to do the testing and all that stuff. But during that process, and as you go up in the ladder or as you move on these experiences, you realize that probably that's not the only job, that you have to build a character, you transmit a persona and passion with which you are serving the organization. But then, from a KPI standpoint, from a smart criteria standpoint, that may not be visible because you cannot tell in words or in a language that I have transmitted or I'm trying to transmit my passion, the character to serve the organization, to serve the customer, right? So, and I think the drifts come from the management, the organizational expectations, because you're moving up into the ladder, or you are, anticipating that okay, you will be moved up to the ladder. It happens in the initial year of a career. So the drift is created for you. It is within you because you want to see your people grow up. And probably you don't give it a name. You just show by what your work has been done, what skills you are teaching, and the passion and the persona, I think, is needs to be perceived by the people. But then you cannot make it tangible. So that's my view on the mentorship paradox, that your identity shifts, you know it, you internalize that, you make a sense of it, but still you cannot name it. So that's how I think about how the identity shifts, how the professional identity shifts, but you still internalize that, you grow on that, and you move on.
Thank you. Thank you, Sandeep. Interesting take on going beyond the typical realm of content. Now I'll let Catherine muse about what I think she's going to talk about, the notion of asymmetry. So, Catherine, it's yours.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. And thank you, Ashok, for inviting me here. So, on the topic of recognition asymmetry, what I would like to say is that in software teams today, we tend to value what we can see, like, the lines of code or the features that are shipped, the interactive dashboards. But software testing is not really about creating something. It's more about preventing. So think of our own health. When do we really appreciate a very good hygiene or an exercise or diet? Not until there is some problem or someone close to us faces something. Testing is like the hygiene of the product. When done well, the system feels stable, calm, uneventful. That nothing happening state, that is the actual outcome. And that exactly is why it is so difficult to measure. And testing seems to prove its value only when it is absent, when failures reach customers or when trust erodes and recovery becomes really, expensive. Until then, it really looks optional. Like Sandeep also mentioned, smart in performance systems in organizations, they are always looking for smart, measurable, specific, measurable, tangible metrics. So how do we really, measure problems that did not occur? Or how do you quantify that confidence which allowed you to ship the product? So the value of testing could easily seem intangible and ambiguous. The approach most organizations seem to take is by adopting automation or advocating automation. Yes, automation is valuable and it does provide a lot of speed. But even with automation, I believe the real value is in the intent behind that test, what it was trying to uncover. It is the work of that tester behind that automated test. What probe he or she conducted, the assumptions studied, the anticipation of the failures, exploring the product as a user, and providing valuable feedback. This, I believe, is the deep work of testing. Testing is not merely just execution or automation. It is quiet, focused, and cognitive. So until we really recognize the value of what did not happen, or really find better ways how we could measure it, a tester's contribution will continue to remain invisible. Thank you, Ashok. Back to you. You're not audible, Ashok.
That's an interesting take on moving from transmitting your character to looking at it from a hygiene perspective, and obviously, again, illuminating us on the notion of connecting smart to the invisible. So now I will let, I think Ravisuriya has got something interesting. So I think he framed it very interestingly with SLMs and LLMs, but I know it's all about maybe human languages. So Ravi, it's yours. You're, I think, mute probably, Ravi?
Yes, absolutely. Namaskaram.
Namaskar.
I thank Ashok sir and his team for giving me this opportunity, and I'm honored to be sit beside Sandeep and Catherine. Thank you. So today I want to frame a context and tell a story. So we have a tester by name Virat who is skilled and doing exceptionally well in his senior role. Testing the front end, back end, DB, and the automation is serving well, and the pipelines are working well. Everything is good, but he does not get promoted, or he does not get that call out. But his fellow engineers are getting it. Why? So this is bothering him, and he is not sure what's happening. Do you see yourself here, or any of your team members here? If yes, yeah, there's something for you that I have from my experience. So, let me go from you to tell what is an identity and how I say it. It's in simple, where do I belong to, or where I put myself and say I belong here. For example, I'm a test engineer, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a friend. So this is an identity. It's a form of like I belong here. And when the team, or when the group accept you that you belong here, you feel that yes, I am identified here, right? Yes. From here I go to what is professional identity. So how do people or team see when you're not in the room or table? That is your that is your professional identity. So how well that team defends you or how well the team recalls you, that states your professional identity. And it is like, again, do I belong here? That's the question. Okay, that matters. And it's more of it is more of, okay, the political this one. And this professional identity, if you see here, it will impact, okay, the growth and well-being eventually. And again, to reiterate, it is more of political and how well I understand this political and how I play. And we are in a time of languages, be it, okay, the large language, small language, and human language. And if you noticed, why we are so familiar and so comfortable with these LLMs are because we both humans and those models are trained on a language with which we both are familiar. That's the reason we happen to communicate and connect and connect so easily with that. Okay, but is the language is all about written and spoken form? So this took me years to understand, and there's a gap. Okay, and again, as said, okay, with LLMs, it says one paper from Google, it says attention is everything. What is an attention? It is an identity to be visible, right? So visibility. So how visible you are, how visible is your work, to whom you're visible, and how you're visible, this matters a lot. Visibility is a language. Okay? It's a language that is not spoken or written, but it is perceived. So how the team perceives your visibility, that defines your identity in your team. That defines your the professional identity of me and you. It is a very critical language, and attentions that we keep building. That's a visibility. So missing a visibility is a language gap. So if you see, I do everything, but still I don't get, okay, what I want, because okay, there is no visibility of what I'm doing to the person who has to notice it. So bridging this gap is a language gap. What is that language? Visibility. So how do I define my visibility? That should come right from the school or home. And it works well. Unfortunately, at home and school, we are not thought about this visibility. And even, okay, in the org, our managers, most times, okay, it's not that, okay, they don't want to help, but they're not aware of it, that the person needs help of knowing the visibility. So in short, the language gap, okay, that I want to talk for any engineer or any person in the org or in the team or in the life is visibility. So build your visibility and be visible. So a heuristic is build visibility and be deserving. So building visibility and not being deserving, it won't help. Be deserving and build your visibility. This helps a lot. So this is a gap that we want to fix in our language, along with the written and the spoken language. Yes.
Thank you, Ravi. That was deep. Before we go into the second slot and maybe be sensitive to time, I think in a way, all of them border on a sense of ability to communicate. One, he was trying to communicate a character and a persona, which is what Sandeep was trying to talk about. And I think Catherine was probably trying to communicate the notion of my value and what I do, because a lot of things are unseen. And the last one, in like what you just mentioned, it's about how I chose to communicate and therefore the importance of language. So somewhere it is about saying, look, I'm transmitting something, and all we're trying to do is in different ways. We're trying to look at it as, am I sensitive to my identity in terms of how I'm able to transmit my persona, my thoughts, my outcomes, and how I do it. But in a very interesting way, you guys put it, and appreciate what you have done. So if I go to the round number 2, and maybe you want to watch your time. So Sandeep, you're back again. And that's what I think you wanted to talk about. So I just put it up for you.
So artifact mourning. I have slight different take on this. Instead of saying it's identity drift or professional identity drift, looking back into our career, I think when we were measured, judged based on length of test plans, strategy documents, test cases, number of bugs. I think even then, and especially when you are in good company of your managers, the executive and other team members. At the end of the day, even they do not have time or patience and energy to look into those lengthy documents. So what exactly at that moment, if I reflect back, if I take a pause and reflect back, oh, maybe they were looking at something different. They might be looking at
Slide not sharing, sorry.
Oh, the slide
slides.
is not shared?
Not.
Oh, okay. So continue. I
Yeah,
didn't
so
realize.
I was continuing on that they were looking at some deeper contribution, some foundational contribution from your side, and not necessarily those artifacts. And as we move on in our journey, and as we get more sense of what was expected of us on a day-to-day basis at the critical moments, and I could safely relate this with our mentorship aspect, that when we move on in the ladder or in the journey, our deeper experiences are more expected from us, and that may result into same kind of documentation with respect to any artifact, let it be planning or strategy. But at the end of the day, what is required, what is expected from us is deep foundations. Can we demonstrate that when it is required the most? It could be a less visible work because team members change, our peers change, our people who are reporting to those change, their skills change, their how they perceive these documents and articles, that change, the value proposition change. But I think what does not change, especially in critical moments, is are you bringing the most desired value from your skill sets? And that is the core to whatever we produce in a small, large, very large formats, in whatever templatized versions, in whatever kind of standardized or maturity levels. So that's my take on. Because and then this drift is coming from you as well, because you look back, you reflect, you pause, and you evaluate yourself over the lifetime of your journey so far. That's my take on this artifact mourning. So for me, it's not mourning, it's more about your evolution over the time and how do you identify yourself in this journey and establish yourself.
Thank you, Sandeep. So now you went on to the content of deep foundations. Interesting. So what does Catherine have to talk now? She's talking about the resistance. So I'll leave you, Catherine, to expound on this talk, on this particular stuff.
Okay, so we are right now in the era of tremendous technological disruption. So everywhere we look, it's about tools, automation, speed. They're the new measures of value. So this, I feel, has created a sense of insecurity in individuals. So many people tend to cling on to the knowledge or experience of their working in a particular system, and this knowledge, which should have been acting like a bridge to be passed on, becomes like a wall. And these silent questions emerge. If I teach the new everything, will I be replaced? Am I mentoring my successor or training my replacement? This is actually what I feel is a sharing resistance. We believe that, we hold on to our knowledge and experience like a shield, thinking if I give it away, I will be left with nothing. But actually, is that true? We try to make ourselves indispensable, but we probably end up with a skill rot. We become too critical to be moved, or too important to be promoted. So this also in turn creates an environment of competition and fear. But here is a paradox, I think, that knowledge is not some kind of finite resource. It does not shrink when it is shared. Rather, it creates more space. It's like you cannot fill a cup that is already full. So we all know we need to always it is said that we should keep our cup half empty. This insecurity is also something that affects the project as a whole, because the experienced resist sharing and the incoming new tend to reinvent what already exists. This, we lose our shared wisdom, something no tool can easily recreate or automate. So I believe we should share our knowledge, because that, when we share, we create more spaces for new perspectives to emerge, or new identities to take shape. So perhaps the question, if any of us do feel like that, should be whether sharing, should not be whether sharing makes us replaceable, rather should be what identity are we trying to protect? And what would happen if I really let myself outgrow this identity? Thank you.
Very nice, Catherine. Yeah, the what identity are we? That's very, the last line I think was very deep, interesting. So let's go back to the final piece to resistance. Sorry, where is that? To Mr. Ravi again. And he let him share his final thought as we sum up and come to an end in terms of musing. So Ravi, it's yours. You kind of talked about some permission aspects.
Yeah. So the common story that runs in our all homes is the permission. Right? For example, okay, the kids, they don't even ask permission to take the TV remote and change the channels. But if you look at how we try to function in the flow, it happens that okay, we all look for some permission. So a story again. There is a engineer by name Smriti, and she's again exceptionally well, and she has been promoted to staff architect for her skills. She's eating the major releases and leading team well by one. But her manager is not happy if she copies the skip manager and the key stakeholders in an update. Is annoyed. Likewise, and now as a result, she has to wait for her manager for everything, and then update a team and then take an action. So if you see, this turned to a delay, and it became like the procrastination habit for a team. So now, do you see yourself here or anyone in the team who is going through this loop? Definitely, there'll be one person, okay, who is going through this loop. If you look at, okay, from the other angle, who is holding who and why and how it impacts. Okay, this is a story. And if you're seeing yourself here or any faculty member here, this is for you. Let me share quickly. So this is a context. Now let me come to how I can deal with this. So most times, okay, the managers are not happy hearing no. Maybe they have to learn, or we have to say, okay, that I'm a partner for first, and then a team member. I'm not the obstacle. So that okay, that amount of loops that I have to run to take permission, that can come down, and it can help a bit. So it is the two different emotions, the team and partner. So first I have to help my team members know that I'm a partner for you first, and then a team. And further going, I should talk the language. Again, when it's a language, what is that language? The impact and conversions, waiting for permissions, for delaying the actions. And when I do this, I should record this communication, okay? And I should talk in terms of trade-offs, okay, for taking the permissions. So this will definitely help. So I was working with my team member who was waiting for me for everything, just to go install, delete, patch, then go and clear the pipelines, everything. So this was stopping him, not me. And eventually it impacted him a lot. So what he could have done is this. Okay, talk the language. So, and then, and let me know how it can help me in turn. So I was helping him by taking these things, impact and conversions, and growth, change, progress. So this is not effective when we wait for permissions. So if at all only if I'm delivering in the next role maybe my manager can see that I'm already there and I can get promoted and I can get the benefits. If not, no, it won't happen. So I cannot wait for permission of a manager and then take the next store and then deliver. No, today it will not work that way. At least that's my experience. And most times we assume that we need permissions. That's because the manager and myself are coming from some kind of the trauma and experiences that has made believe that no, first you take permission and then let me know and then you do it. Okay, so what I understood eventually is seeking permission versus keeping updated is different. Seeking opinion versus making decision making is different. But if you look at all this, there is the minute element of permission which goes on trust. Okay, and that trust we should build. That is a language. Again, it falls back to the same thing: visibility, be deserving, and skills. And talk the language. Talk the language of what? Trade-offs, conversions. Okay, in simple. Okay, articulate your no. Heal the trauma of seeking permission to everything, and definitely this would have come from our childhood. And can seeking permission be prevented? How? And for what all we should know that. And I should know for what I should be taking permissions and what is okay if I don't take now. Yeah, that's the language. And I feel we test engineers should learn this as early as possible in our career. It will help a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. I think I have to reshare my screen from last time what I understand. So I'll put it back. Give me a sec, and there we are. I think this is what we talked about. So if I were to sum up, I think you're really saying, I remember, I am reminded of a statement that we had on a t-shirt many years ago. I think it was 30 years ago when we were actually working with an organization which wanted to build an absolutely brand new product. And the t-shirt had this little logo, and all of us had multiple color t-shirts where we used to wear. And all it said was on the left side and the right side of the handle. I think the left side hand which said the rules are, because we were a new team building a completely new product, hardware, software, machine, and that. On the other side of the hand, the rules are one side of the hand, the other side it said there are no rules. So we were constantly reminded that the rules are there are no rules. So be creative, be innovative, get things done. And actually it was brilliant because that particular team, which was a global team, which ultimately converged in a small post office in a tiny village in California, actually built an interesting product in 6 months. And that turned out to be one of the nicest products that the company started, which probably held up their business for the next 10, 15 years. So it was interesting. Of course, the fact of the matter is I think that what they were trying to do is cut down, make, of course, they didn't say make mistakes explicitly, but we all know we make mistakes. But bottom line, if I were to kind of take the second level and look at certain key points before I round up, so to speak, is what Sandeep kind of talked about, not in terms of mourning, but in terms of the fact that there is foundational contributions, right? So you need to free yourself up in a way, if I were to kind of look at it from the perspective of freedom that you were trying to expound, that you're saying, look, go down so deep such that you're able to completely free yourself and then be able to be far more foundational rather than superficial content. And Catherine said, look, free yourself up so that you're not worried about the fact that you're going to be taken away, your job is going to be taken away, because knowledge is something that, it's not a finite resource, right? And of course, Ravi ultimately said, look, completely free yourself up. You don't need permission, my friend, go do. So your identity is about building on the notion of freedom. And I said, don't stop, because I'm just your partner. I mean, it's very interesting that how each of you wave and how each of you shared some interesting thoughts on the notion of identity. I'm sure if you continue this conversation, each one of you would share more interesting war stories from your experiences. But my sincere thanks to each one of you, to build on that idea. Appreciate your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sir, we have a question, sir. One question.
Oh, complicated now. Yes, sir.
This was Sandeep. When you're mentoring someone, how do you decide you're a good mentor?
No, you got Sandeep, you got 60 seconds. Maybe 30.
It's not on me to decide, am I a good mentor? It would be perception by the other person once the mentoring is done or once the mentoring is in progress. So receive feedback is my way of doing it, and gut feeling for sure, because there is no smart criteria beyond what is most typical ones.
So can I add for this, sir, to the question? So don't have just a mentor, have mentors. That's all.
Sure.
Don't have a
Okay.
mentor, have mentors, because
Okay.
one mentor cannot fill everything.
Absolutely. That's always, yeah. Point well taken. Any other parting comments? 30 seconds before we close down. Any others? Anybody else?
Yes, one thing that influenced me over the time, all this drift is karmanyeva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. And I think that frees you from all these bondages of even if your identity is being drifted towards something else. As long as we are contributing, that should be sufficient.
Absolutely. So, yep. So now you hit upon the nail, and the ultimate, the end philosophy is free yourself up, do your work, and let the world take over, my friend. And don't worry about identity anymore. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you all.
So what was Sandeep said and you said, that is the shloka from chapter 3 of chapter 3, Karma Yoga, and shloka number is 119.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
So the
Thank you.
Pleasure. Bye. Thank you.